I got $1.60 an hour. We all started for no money. Somebody sued, and they either had to not pay everybody or pay. So we got $1.60 an hour. I was in heaven, before they made me the PD. $1.60 an hour. They're paying me to spin records. My God. From there, I got a wander list and asked around, and somebody knew somebody and said, call KCJ-TV.
Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. That's the voice of Art Breyfogle, and we're in the middle of a conversation of him talking about his early days in broadcasting.
So the bottom line is I'm at USC a number of years later, where I went for 3+ years and flunked out. It did me nothing good in regards to my business. I was working 3 radio stations in 1 week, every week, different places. So the good thing it did do is take me out to a few places and get me introduced to people. We got about 6 of us invited. We got to go to KRLA, which was the old Pasadena hotel there, the Sheraton, I guess. And it was this grungy old square building. And at that time, it was Oak Knoll Broadcasting. We were sharing in the profits of it because the guy from Canada eventually got caught running a fraudulent contest. What was his name? He owned the Lakers. Jack Kinko. Never saw him or anything, but he was never involved really. But he just let people run it. They didn't know what they were doing. Anyway, they got caught with a fraudulent contest, and they found out he wasn't an American. Well, how can he own a radio station? Well, that's when he lost it. And the shares went like 80% to KCET, Channel 28, and the other profits went to KUSC, USC's broadcasting stuff. So we're in there, and it was midday, and Casey Kasem was there. Now, Casey already has started Do Shebang on Channel 5, the weekly or the daily dance show that Dick Clark eventually owned. Mm-hmm. And, we all knew who he was. Of course, I listened to him. I thought he was phenomenal talent. And you went into the little control room, and there was glass, and the engineer was spinning the stuff on the other side, the old school, just like Shay did it forever. And, he hits the cue button when he wants the guy to start the record. And all he had was basically his switch for the mic, but there were other pots there, but he didn't do anything with them. So when they're chatting with him, I'll never forget he had this nice blue velvet, sweater vest on and looked very coiffured with his hair. Very, very nice, very mellow guy, a Lebanese guy from Detroit, done radio in South Korea, Armed Forces. That's kind of how he got into it. And he was very loquacious with everybody. He just wanted, what are you doing? In between records, we're doing all this. And all of a sudden I go, Casey, that dial, what's that do? He goes, I don't know. He turns it from right all the way to the left. All of a sudden, within 20 seconds, the engineer is pounding on the glass. Go, what'd you do? He goes, oh, hold on. He put the dial back up. He goes, it turns off the radio station. I go, okay, thanks, Casey. The engineer was all pissed off at him. It was a true story. That really happened. You hear very rare dead air on KRLA or KHJ, but that's when that happened.
Well, I were with KHJ if you had dead air. Yes.
I segued out of USC and into working radio. I started at 17, a little station in the Valley. No one ever listened to. It's in the Panorama Towers back then, 11th floor, and it was called KBFM. They had been in the Porter Hotel in San Fernando. There had been a fire, and they moved over there. I went in one night. I was, how old was I? Just 17 and a half, 17. And Bill Smith, who became I don't know if you remember him, he was a reporter for Channel 5 for decades.
I do remember Bill Smith very well.
Guy. Yeah. And he was like the PD, and he was getting ready to leave 2 days later to go to end up working with Dick Whittington over at KGIL, over in the Radio Park there in San Fernando. And I brought in this horrible tape I had made at USC. And he goes, here's the key. You come in Saturday morning, you turn on the transmitter. It's in the closet right there. You work 4 hours, and by then someone will be here to take you. And, when do I start? I already had my third class endorsed. I needed that for USC. And so, okay. So I go in. I can barely get the radio station on. I finally get it on right at 6. And, of course, I'm living in fraternity then. I stay up all night partying with the guys. And, I think it was a football game that night we had at the Coliseum playing somebody. So anyway, I get there and I start playing records. Long story, within less than 2 years, year and a half, they made me PD, $400 a month, and all the records you could take home under your arm that you weren't playing, and a free dinner every night at Howard Johnson's by Galpin Ford on Roscoe, home of the Double Bubble cocktail. And I was living a good life. Hooked into a guy named Phil Blazer. A lot of people might remember him. He had B'nai Shalom. It was a radio show targeted to Jewish descent people. And he also got involved with a lot of Jewish activities all over his lifetime. And he had a network at the end, a TV network and everything else. Anyway, he had the show, and he had it in different shells. And originally I'd go to his house, even if he wasn't there, give me the key, and I'd go upstairs in Porter Ranch and put together 5 one-hour shows they would send up to the Bay Area every week and run the show up there. Insert local, so the commercials. Then he had a building over in Wilshire Boulevard. He shared a little office off from somebody. He was a wheeler dealer guy. Well, the wheeler dealer worked for me because what he ended up doing, he traded out advertising at the Barrington Plaza, which back then was pretty cool. There were 3 big towers on Wilshire, right not far down from the Veterans Center off the freeway there. And it was a $400 a month apartment. Now, this is 1968, about 68, late 67. $400 a month. What idiot would ever pay that for, you had to be very wealthy to be in there. A lot of movie stars. I'd come down one day in an elevator. There's Cannibal Adderley. And he's, hey, Cannibal, where are you off to? In Seattle. I play your album at the radio station all the time. Really? Where do you work? Nicest guy in the world. And just... all these people were living around that area. Obviously, L.A. In the old day, you run into people. I grew up in Northridge. You'd see Dan Blocker driving the Corvette down the street every day. I remember years later, I met Century Cable, and we're doing some public service video stuff. And a guy comes in, and I go up to him, and I said, I remember seeing you in Northridge all the time, crossing Allen's Market. There's a liquor store, and you had a little Mercury wagon, and you had your kid in the back, and you're loading beer and stuff for a picnic. And it was, what was this? Claude Rains. Not Claude Rains, Claude Akins. That VJ and the Bear, and he also did Amco commercials for years and worked in every Western ever made. He worked all the time, like Jim Davis lived on Nordhoff, and you'd see him gardening when he wasn't doing Rescue Aid, and then later on he went into Dallas, But anyway, Claude looks at me and goes, how the hell do you remember all that? I said, yeah. And then years later, I run into another guy. I said, how is your green TR3? He goes, what are you talking? How do you know that? I saw you used to come in Allen's Market all the time, a little family-owned market on Reseda Boulevard, and it was Jeremy Slate. He'd been in the Aquanauts and a bunch of. He once again was a B-movie actor, worked for zillions of years. So, that was L.A. then. So anyway, I'm at KBFM doing the thing there, going on 3 years, laying guys off in the weekends, and I'm sorry, it isn't working out, Bob. We're going to have to, it was horrible. Little kid. I got $1.60 an hour. We all started for no money. Somebody sued, and they either had to not pay everybody or pay. So we got $1.60 an hour. I was in heaven, before they made me the PD. $1.60 an hour. They're paying me to spin records. My God. And from there, I got a wanderlust and asked around, and somebody knew somebody and said, call KCJ-TV. And went down there and got hired that day to be assistant traffic, booking commercials upstairs above the KCJ radio. And, of course, there you'd see everybody coming in. Took leaks next to Dick Clark and all kinds of celebrities in the toilet on the second-floor landings there. It was a lot of great history right behind Paramount Studios. Friday afternoons, you'd roll the little window down on the top. You couldn't look out of it. It was way high up. And you'd hear gunshots go. They were blanks. You were usually shooting Mannix in the little square behind us there, behind the wall. You go in, you could eat in their commissary, just the days of Star Trek, everybody in line had the pointed ears, walking around. Showbiz Central, right, for Hollywood.
Yeah,
so that's how I got started in radio. And then from there, Brenda Befriend, the gal that was doing the traffic, had a guy named Finn Hollinger, who was friends with everybody across the western United States in radio. He's a promoter for advertising and other things that he did. And I think at one time he had a station or two. Anyway, he knew a guy in Vegas, Mel Ryan, who was running KRAM, Modern Country 1340. And within 2 weeks after working 1 year to the week at KCJ-TV, I was up at this radio station in Las Vegas. Sold 5 days a week, DJ'd Friday night, went in at midnight, Saturday morning till 6 in the morning, and Sunday from noon to 6. So I worked 7 days a week. I was sick one day in 1 year. And once again, left a year to the week and moved to Fresno and worked a radio station there, KFRE, 50,000 watts. Nobody in town listened, but we were big in Dinuba and Reedley. God, we were huge. And then from there, went, where did I go from there? Can't remember.
Now,
KFRE.
Well, you're thinking about that. KFRE Fresno, what was the format? Was it top 40, country, middle road?
When we were there, we were Chicken Rock. Triangle publication owned it for years, TV Guide. They owned the TV station there, Channel 30, which now has been owned by ABC for decades. And it was in an old cheese factory building down the street. We were in a building called the Patterson Building. And it turned out later I found out the guy that had sold the interior soundproofing worked for John Mansfield. It was my uncle, who lived in San Mateo. Had come down when Triangle owned it. Triangle, they spent money on everything. We were bought by a guy named Walter Lake, who was running a radio rep office in L.A., and he came in and spent nothing, and we were struggling all the time, and there was no real direction. The only neat thing was the guy running it was old Tom Mall, who had worked at KHJ Radio.
Oh, yeah.
And Tom was a sweetheart. Just a really, really good guy. And he had been in radio all his life, and I was instrumental in him getting into television. I left KFRE after, 4 years, whatever I was there, and I went over to the ABC station for 8 years. Last few as sales manager. KJEO, it was called back then. The ABC affiliate now is once again that other Channel 30. But anyway, they needed a weather guy. And I go, Tom, you'd be perfect for this, man. Get you in. You can still do the radio. You can do the. I don't want to do it. Well, I went to him 3 times, and they had one guy they hired. It didn't work out. I went back to him the 4th time. I said, Tom, I'm not going to BS you anymore. You need to get your butt over there and just talk to these people. Well, he finally went, and he got on. And he did weather in Fresno for, 5, 6, 8 years, moved to Denver, and finished up his career doing weather on television. And he was just a really, really good guy. Died very, very young. Natural causes type stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah, one thing led to another, and basically, I would just bounce from here to there. And after being in L.A. or in Fresno for years, there was reasons I kind of wanted to leave town. Divorce, number one. And I went over and started getting in the cable ad business in Monterey and started a cable ad thing for a place called MPTV Cable. And that was owned by the San Francisco Chronicle in San Francisco. Big money, old money, the Giroux family. And basically doing that was super interesting because it was super easy. It was radio with pictures. And we had a lock. We ended up running ads 2 minutes an hour on each of the networks. CNN, ESPN, USA, and MTV had just hit. And MTV went through the roof. I created characters. I was a wrestling guy, and Boom Boom Otter. I went down to the wharf and got a T-shirt and had them put 3 otter caricatures on a thing. And I couldn't find a ski mask in Monterey. Tried to find a ski mask in Monterey. Made a call to Kmart out in Sand City out there, and the guy goes, I got one on the desk from a rep guy brought in. I'll just give it to you. Come on over. So I went over to Fort Ord, which is still an active base then, and we traded out an MTV satin tour jacket for a wrestling outfit with the big boots and everything. And I had another guy that was our producer, sales guy, and he actually became the second banana called Stanley the Sticker Picker. And we go out in the yellow torpedo car, which was my yellow Corvette, which I loved back in those days. And we go out and look for MTV stickers on cars and give away prizes just like a radio station would do.
Wow.
And we got huge. We started, within a few years, less than 3 years, we were out building a CBS affiliate there with 4 little stuff. And what I did was very simple. If, in fact, we didn't sell the time, we gave it away. And we go out and we tell people, hey, if I run an extra commercial or 2 for you in a week, you wouldn't mind, would you? What are the people going to say? No, don't do that. So we ended up doing that. And, of course, if they bought 2 a week, we'd run 50 a week for them whenever I had an open spot. And finally, those started to fill up with paid spots because people told other people this really works. And it really took off. And then from there, that's how I went down to Century Cable. and had the run with cable advertising there.
We're talking with broadcaster Art Breyfogle, who is both in radio and TV, mainly in sales and marketing. And next time he'll discuss an important element, something that's really crucial that's missing in advertising today to make a product and service successful.